Good morning, Bill.
There we go.
How are you, sir?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm okay. We'll talk more about me in a minute. What you sound pretty good. Tell me about that.
Well, thanks. Pretty good. I just got out of the shower, so that's always feels pretty good to be seal-like, you know.
How often do you shave the head?
Twice a week.
Twice a week?
Yeah.
And do you, like, at this point, I mean, you've always had a shaved head for as long as I've known you.
Yeah.
Do you still, like, cut yourself and stuff? Or is it, at this point, is it just, like, autopilot and you're just done and no big deal?
Well, I would have said autopilot, but about 10 days ago, I cut crap out of my head. Like,
Really?
hardcore. Like, I couldn't get stopped bleeding for about 20 minutes.
God.
Yeah, that was a scalp. I mean, it was like, you know. But most of the time, it's on autopilot. I haven't cut myself in, I'd be willing about 10 years before that.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah. So it's good though. I had a good day yesterday. I did a lot of video work and got all my blocking and tackling done and everything
Huge.
on task. So,
Dude, that's so huge.
Yeah.
It's cool because my day yesterday kind of sucked, and we'll talk about that in a second. And because there's some important things about why my day sucked that I'm aware of now that I've kind of fixed it and stuff like this. So, but dude, good for you on having a good day. So what does Thursday look like for you then?
So I've just got I'm plugging pretty deeply into Go High Level. I'm trying to get that in a place where I'm really happy with it, and then I can just not touch it for a little bit and see what comes in. So I'm working pretty heavily on that. I actually have several calls today. I've got my Christian networking groups today at 11:30 that I co-host. I've got meeting a buddy I haven't seen in quite a while for breakfast after this.
Nice.
That'd be nice. Pretty heavy day. It's a Thursday.
It's a Thursday.
Yeah. A little different Thursday, but it's definitely a Thursday.
Yeah. Well, good, man. I'm happy for you.
So tell me a little bit about yours yesterday.
So I had a call with the guy who published that interview, right? And like we knew, or like I was pretty certain, there was going to be like some sort of money conversation at the end of that thing, and there was. It was a $10,000 pitch, and I'm like, no, can't do it.
And real quick, what did he offer for this 10K?
Well, okay, so this is the really interesting part, right? We get on the call, and he goes, okay, I'm a little confused. And I said, okay, about what? And he was like, it sounds like you've got all these different things going on. You've got the podcast, but you've got this, and I'm kind of like, so. And this was frustrating to me because he's like, oh, you need to shut down the other podcast, rebrand it as like your personal brand podcast, take off the co-hosts, and make it so that way you can bring on your leads, right? And do like the standard kind of lead gen podcast thing.
Right.
And I was like, that's not an option. And he was like, well, why not? And I was like, because it's a different business entity, right? There's 3 partners. And he was like, I've never even heard of podcasts with 3 partners or with 3 hosts. What do you guys talk about? And I kind of got pissed, so you're telling me to scrap this whole thing that
Right.
We've got 48 episodes in, to come do your version of what you think is going to, fix my business or whatever. So it was a little bit frustrating. And the way that he pitched was wonky as well. Like we're talking. And he was like, look, like this is stuff that I work with my clients with. By the way, would you like to become a client? And I said, well, I don't know what it looks like to what the cost looks like to become a client, but so far everything we talked about is really good. And he goes, $10,000, and I said, you're way out of the ballpark. Right. And then what happened was because we were going a little bit long in the conversation. So other people started to hop into his Zoom channel. Right. And so then he was like, John, I got to let you go. There's this other meeting starting and everything else like this. And I was feeling very like played. Right. Kind of thing. Right. It felt disingenuous. And I'm a skeptical idiot. Right. And so my walls are always up, and, it could have not been any of those things, but it just felt weird, right? So,
Yeah.
but he was excited that the medium piece was getting some claps, so they're going to push it up to Thrive Global, which is cool. Like, I'm excited about that.
Mhm.
But yeah, won't be working with him. But so he kept saying the same thing that everybody else says. Hey, you're doing too much, you're stretched too thin. You got to collapse all this under one brand, so that way it's really easy. And it's like, I get it. I get that I'm here and it's not optimal, but I've made agreements. This is where we are. This is how we're doing it. If you can help, then let's talk about how to help from here. But don't give me advice about, oh, well, you shouldn't have started a podcast with other people. It's like, well, that's not helpful at this point.
What's funny is yesterday I was shooting video with James about good processes, and one of the ones was he did a little thing about how to pitch bad and how to pitch good, and he pretty much did what you just talked about as the bad one. He didn't listen to what the actual need was. He jumped right in and sold his product. He told me what I was looking for was dumb, and then what he was looking to do for me would be way better than anything I could think of. Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking, like, God, he was the best.
Yeah, what's so funny is because we were talking about sales and training and everything else like this, because he knew that that's the stuff that I'm into. And he's just talking about Carnegie stuff, and I'm like, that's cool. I have no problem with Carnegie. He's written obviously some awesome books. I've got 3 of them on my kind of show off shelf, which is what I call that, I guess. Yeah. And he was like, man, I get it. And I told him about the role play groups, and he was like, man, that's fantastic. I don't know anybody else who's trying to do anything like that. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then he went into his pitch. But here's the things that he did not do that I would have done differently, right? If we're going to do kind of like a sales call teardown thing. So first of all, we had no agreement on time, right? I mean, it was on the calendar for 45 minutes, but we went longer than that. There was no discussion about that at all, which kind of makes me think that whenever other people started hopping in there, he just wasn't managing his time well, which is, whatever. There was no buy-in around my pain points, which is really important. If you're selling and someone is unloading pain, I was unloading pain, talking about, wanting to be where I want to be and everything else like this. And then there was no kind of question of like, hey, I'm curious, how committed are you to fixing this? Right? How committed someone I follow talks about it. Hey, is this a problem or is this a priority?
Yeah, I love that.
Which I like a lot, And so, but getting them to buy into the idea of like, yes, this is a problem, and yes, I'm ready to fix it. He did not do. There was no budget conversation at all. The only way he qualified me around money was asking me if my business had paying clients. There's a big difference between having some paying clients and being able to just like shell out $10,000, for
right now, when most people, especially right now when people have torn through their savings,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, but so there was none of that. There was honestly no real discussion about like how I make decisions or when I would buy or if there's anybody else involved or anything else like this. So, he was leaving himself without a net, for the majority of the call, right? Which, he has a process and that's okay. And if he wants to, there's no right or wrong way to sell, right? The way that I sell is about being as consistently to the goal as possible, right? So when you don't talk about money, you don't talk about how I make decisions, and you don't really get me to buy in that I need to fix these pain points that you've worked so hard to dug up. You're shooting from, the 3-point range, which can work. It's just harder, and you're not going to be as consistent. So
exactly. Yeah.
So I got off that and was a little bit bummed, right? Because it's just like, man, I know it's not optimal, but this is where I'm at. And like, Jesus, like I'm just tired of hearing about it at this point. Not because like I want to tell myself that I'm doing everything correctly. That's not it. It's just like, I've already got this information. I've collected it. I've processed it. I know that it's here. How do we move forward from here? Kind of deal.
Right. Makes sense. Well, it's always the best place to be, right?
Good morning, Gabe.
And Michelle. Yep.
So I was just pissed, right? And really kind of in a bad mood. And that was at 12:15, right? So I've been struggling in the afternoons lately. I'm going to do some shifting around of my workspace because, what I'm finding is that I get really like jacked up from this right? And then immediately after this, there's such a like sharp drop off in my like, chatty, 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 chatty. Okay, just like have to turn to work, right? And so I need a better place to land for that work so that I can get more done in the mornings. But yeah, so yesterday afternoon was just terrible, right? Because like I was in this bad mood and everything else. And then I started to realize of like, man, I haven't done anything active and like couldn't even like tell you how long, right? Because like I jacked my wrist up doing these handstands, so I'm not doing handstands currently, and so I was like, I'm just going to go for like a super long walk. So I was supposed to have a call at 2 that I canceled because I was like, I don't really think that I'm in the right headspace to like chat with anybody right now.
Right.
So I walked and kind of like jogged from 2 to 3 and like really kind of like got out of my head and into my body and felt better after that. So there are things that are going to help your mindset and there are things that are not going to. You need to make sure that you are really focused on keeping like the good stuff. And so for me, like working out in some way, shape, or form is a huge part of that. And when you're doing this kind of stuff, it's really easy to be like, I'll work out later, I'll work out later, I'll work out later. Like look at our BIL bets, right? I mean, sometimes there were weeks where like we don't really even get started until Thursday because you just procrastinate by so much. So don't do that. Work out in some way, shape, or form. You've got to get out of your head into your body. There's so many studies that show that it's good for depression and anxiety and stress and everything else like this. And let me tell you, like it was 94 degrees or something yesterday when I was doing my walk. It was humid as hell, and it was quite the workout. I got probably 7,000 steps in about an hour, which is not nothing. Yeah. And was covered in sweat. Came home and showered, and then was better after that. So for me, it's good sleep, right? Really being on top of my sleep game, really being on top of my like not eating it late game, which struggles sometimes, and then some exercise.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was actually thinking about that there needs to be a Thursday for your day. Like every day there needs to be a Thursday spot. Because we joke about Thursday is the part of the week that's like, oh crap, here comes. Yeah. So, but what time is that for you in the day, right? And then also, I think the COVID stuff has helped me build in that, I guess, activity in a way that it was much easier than it was before because, we were all just so busy in a headspace where like move, slowed everything down. So it's like, all right, these things. So, and so I've been walking every day. Almost started, and my kids love it. So we walk in the late afternoon, kind of before I do my last push for the day for work. But yeah, it makes a massive difference for me. Massive. If I don't get that walk now, even I'm grumpy.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing that you talk about a lot is your environment design, right? Yep. Like making sure that it's there. And I was thinking about this, and I wasn't even sure I was going to talk about it, right? Because it's like, so my desk is kind of this weird kind of like in between height, right? I can stand at it, but I've also got this like drafting chair, so I sit up a little bit higher. But the drafting chair is not super comfortable, and this desk is really built for standing more than it is for sitting. I mean, you've seen it, right? So like it's kind of this awkward build or whatever. And I've got all this stuff, the cam and the lighting and the mics and everything else like this. So it's not really built for like long hours of deep work and things like this. And so whenever we get done with this every morning, what happens is I'm like, cool, let me start moving everything out of the way, right? So that I can actually work. And then I get caught up doing something and all of a sudden I'm sidetracked. Like, and somebody is hearing this and they're like, oh, John, like, come on, you're being ridiculous. And it's like, well, maybe. But I also know that like any friction is still friction. So when you can reduce friction in your work, in your life and stuff like this, it's worth doing.
Well, and we talk about head gain, mindset, mental, head trash. We talk about that stuff all the time. So there's zero difference between what we talk about in sales and marketing and our own work environments. If it's friction for your mind, it's probably 10 times what you think internally. It's 10 times. So it just occurred to me years ago that my physical environment makes me a different person. It just does. There's a switch in my head where I can switch. So if I get bored, or if I get in a spot where I'm just not feeling like I'm in a good flow, I get up, I go to a different work spot, or I get up and I leave and I come back. It could be 5 minutes. It doesn't matter. Those things work for me. But I think they work for everybody to a certain degree.
Well, I think it's, man, like, have you read Deep Work, Cal Newport?
Yeah.
such a great book, right?
Yeah.
About like, the importance of deep work and everything else. And to me, like, that's where I started to really think about like environment design and making sure that like all that was set up.
Yeah.
And like, this is all connected to a laptop, right? I can take this laptop anywhere I want. It's just now it's kind of situated here, right? So part of me is like, oh, work at the office, John. Like you need to be in the right headspace and all these things. But I mean, come on, I can work anywhere, right? I need to go work where it does.
Right.
I had to incorporate running into my routine, and it does. Much like John Hill, it makes me feel better. Yeah, man, absolutely, right? Like, go gas yourself in some way, shape, or form, and the best epiphanies happen for work when you're not working. So
Absolutely. That's the Creative Circle. Gosh, what's his name? Alan Gannett. Was a good book, and it talks a lot about the science of getting in a creative space. And most spaces involve not thinking. It's getting out of thinking spaces so that you can clear your head. But I'll even do something like 10 push-ups and a handstand for 30 seconds on a wall or something in the middle of a day if I don't want to get sweaty, but just get my blood pumping again and get kind of out of that space. I mean, just kind of prescribe as needed sort of thing, because you don't even necessarily going and gassing yourself is amazing if you can get it done. Some days you just can't, right? Yeah. So it's kind of just that much will get you in a spot that will get you out of a lot of tough mindsets sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. On the good news yesterday, right? I worked out a deal with a guy, and he's going to be my funnel guy. So we're going to be doing some trading. I'm going to be helping him with some process, and he's going to be helping me build funnels and offers and stuff like this around various things. And we're just going to work together for a while. And it was a good conversation because, when you trade with somebody because you've got something they want and vice versa, it's really easy for that trade to start to feel like unequitable at some point down the road, right? So we both agreed this isn't for forever. And we're both going to be like checking in like every 2 to 3 months, like, hey, like, do you still feel like you're getting good value on the trade and vice versa and stuff like that. But, he's somebody I met. He's part of this kind of weekly free Wednesday morning funnel call. These guys are pretty awesome. And so he listened to some of the episodes of the podcast, and he was like, man, I'm in. Like, let's figure it out. And, I want to work with you, and I want some of this sales stuff. So
cool, man.
Yeah. So that's exciting. I got a coaching client, right? So we're going to be working together to give him some process to how he sells, because like he's juggling wanting to being a creative director and not wanting to be a salesperson at all. So we're gonna sit down and figure out, okay, cool. Like, you don't need to be a salesperson all day, right? You just need to be a salesperson for maybe 2 hours out of the day, and then you can go be the creative person, stuff like that. So we're gonna build out a schedule, KPIs, activity counts, and stuff like that, and then hold them accountable and just see them crush.
Yeah, very cool. That's good.
And then I had another conversation with another, I guess, kind of client, right? Well, like one of my coaches is needing like some CRM help for a new person that they brought on. So I'm going to be working with them to kind of get them set up and stuff like that. And, it's nice. So here's the deal, guys. Like, from a revenue perspective, yesterday was awesome, right? Like cannot be irritated with the results of the day yesterday, but the feeling of that frustration in the middle of the day, like, almost completely took me out of it. So this is why the journaling is so important, because it's not about how you feel. It's about the results of the things that you did. Because in sales, guys, there's plenty of days where I work my ass off essentially, or I feel like I do. And the results don't come from it in the form of clients and revenue for weeks or maybe a month or 2 months or something like that. So don't disconnect or don't go looking for immediate gratification, because when you're prospecting and selling, some of this stuff takes a while to actually show up, which is why you need leading indicators and not just the lagging indicators of the bank account, right? And 2 guys on the podcast with me always talk about, well, I just check the bank account. It's like, well, I obviously have problems with that for a number of reasons, but if it works for you, then that's awesome. Because, if you've got enough, if you have enough money in that checking account, it could be a year with no sales and you feel just fine. And it's like, well, that's not helpful either, right? So you got to pull it back a data point or 17 as that case may be, and go from there.
Yeah. Well, and, assuming that the money keeps coming in and all they do is check the bank account, they just have some leading indicators that are so unconscious that they are checking that they don't even realize it, because there's always leading indicators.
There's always leading indicator. Like there's always a data point that you have absolute control over that you can map to that makes your life so much easier, right? Like the idea of just looking at the bank account to me is such at this point is such like a foreign idea because like I'm so KPI focused. I mean, arguably too much. Like I don't think I'm like a KPI Kevin or one of those guys, but you know, I do think I flirt with that sometimes of being like way too data focused and not enough people focused, and trying to balance that is interesting. But man, if you just talk to 5 people a week about what you do and see if you can help them, you're going to be successful, right? So go figure out how to talk to 5 people a week about what you do and see if they need your help. Like that's it. Like if I'm going to boil down everything that I do, it's just making sure that the people that I work with are having 5 conversations a week about what they do. Right. That's the very first step, and then after that, we can start figuring out how to up those percentages. But you gotta have a baseline first. Yep. If not, you're you know, oh, I'm getting stronger. Well, compared to what?
Right.
You know. So.
Yep. And the marketing side of that for me is make sure you're selling to the problem that they have, not the one that you think they need, because everyone struggles with that across the board. They think they're selling something that's going to, you know, change the world, but if no one buys it, you're stuck. So marketing is just talking in the language that people want to hear.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, and the thing that I really like about marketing is that it's so KPI heavy. It can be whenever you're looking at it the right way, right? Because if you're looking at a funnel or some sort of offer and you can't really figure out why, right? There are KPIs you can look at, right? Okay, are we getting enough traffic to this thing? Right. Let's check the actual conversion rate, because most pages only convert at 3 to 5% anyway. So if we had 100,000 people, right, and we had or 100 people, right, and 3 to 5 click the buy button, you're doing pretty well, right? Yeah. So you need to go get that in front of more people. Versus if you're not hitting that thing, then you might have a copy issue or you might have an offer issue. But there's so many KPIs in marketing to go look at to make sure that you're on the right path or not. That I think that's why I like it so much.
Well, and I think, that can be to a detriment to a lot of people, especially people who like KPIs, because you get knee deep in KPIs and start measuring because it makes you feel good because you're measuring, you know, because it's really, this is a struggle I had in the agency a lot, because we would have these elaborate dashboards for people that showed all these different things we were doing for them from these different channel areas and how they, you know, mixed with each other and who was pulling the weight and, you know, attribution and all sorts of stuff. And it was like, at the end of the day, are the right people coming here and doing the action you're asking them to do? And I think most people start to way past that when you should really start there. They're like, okay, can I get the people here? Okay, are they clicking on something? Great. Now we can start getting a little bit more complex about how we do that. Like you complain about the retargeting on a retarget to a landing page of a landing page mentality. Oh.
Well, okay, so then my question then becomes for like the marketing KPIs, right? Is the way that I think about it for sales is breaking down from like the end result. I want to make 100 grand. My deals are often 5 grand, so I need 20 deals. How many asks do I need to make to get to 20 yeses?
Right.
And so the marketing side of that, I think I go the other way, right? Like, and maybe this is the better way to do it anyway. And maybe I'm doing this for sales, but I've just done it so much I can do it both ways. But you know, when it comes to like looking at marketing KPIs, is like I treat it like a troubleshooting thing, right? So I used to do tech support a long time ago, and one of the things was like you start with the thing that you have the control over the most, and then you work backwards from that, right? And so is for like cable internet, right? So first thing we would do is restart the machine, right? Yep. And then after that, you reset the modem. And then after that, you check the line. And then after that, okay, it's not in the house. We need to get a technician out of there because we've eliminated all the options in the house, right? So I think it's about eliminating the easy stuff, so that way you know for sure it's the hard stuff.
Yeah, for sure. But it's kind of like when you're doing A/B testing or you're doing conversion rate optimization type stuff. You have to go one variable at a time. And when you add 100 variables into a marketing campaign, you don't know why it doesn't work
exactly.
most of the time. You've eliminated your ability to measure what's important.
So for marketing then, should it just be like, okay, we launch a campaign. Dude, I'm getting excited about this conversation now. So you launch a marketing campaign, and then how much of it is just like establishing baseline? because I think in my world, establishing baseline is the most important thing, because you don't know if you're improving without the baseline.
Right. So absolutely. I mean, it's so weird, right? Because it's almost like SEO versus paid when you think about marketing. It is SEO, they tell you got to do this thing and set it up and they'll come, and then you can measure later, and that's like, okay. Paid is like you can go out and you can test a whole bunch of things and see if it gets you traffic and get you stuff done, and then at least you know you have a baseline. So when you come to marketing, yeah, if you don't have a really specific aim at who you're talking to and the issue that you're trying to solve for them, it's hard to establish a baseline, right? It's kind of some of the stuff we talked about when we were planning this is when you're putting out offers that are vague, you don't know what you don't know, right? If I say, hey, I can help you with sales, right? And you go out there and they land on a page and say, hey, do you need help with your sales? And you don't get conversions. The problem may not be that people don't need help with their sales. It's that they don't know what you do to help them. What part of it are you trying to sell me? And so it's less of baseline. It's a hard thing to pin down because there's so many variables. But yes, I think baseline is very important. But whereas with sales, you can go, hey, what you can dig, right? You have this conversation where you can make sure that you're in the right conversation with the right person. Where with marketing, you have to do the research to make sure that you're getting the people in, so know that you're having the right conversation, at least to start. Otherwise, the people won't come to have the conversation. Whereas in a sales conversation, you can walk into a room, do your pitch, and then people will talk to you at least, right?
Maybe.
You can start things out, right? Maybe. Depends how big and burly your beard is.
That's true. That's true. That's why no one talks to me, because it's not big and burly yet.
Right.
So that's a really good point, right? Because there are times where it might be a copy issue, it might be an offer issue, or it could be a traffic issue, right? So not being a paid guy, right? Like I don't really have any paid experience, right? With paid marketing or anything else like this. I find it endlessly fascinating because like I think it's like a proving ground, right? It's like a lab. But I know that paid people, right? Like people who do paid marketing is kind of their default. They have no traffic problems, right? And so their view of traffic versus my view of traffic is so radically different, right? Like I know guys and they're like, okay, cool. Let's just test this offer and let's go put it in front of 1,000 people. And it's like, God, you know how hard I have to work to get an offer in front of 1,000 people? Like holy shit. It's difficult to do because like I don't do the paid thing because I don't have that knowledge. So working with this funnel guy is going to be fairly interesting because, you know, we were kind of talking about some of the ideas that I have about these reinforcement pads and the role play groups and, you know, tracking CRMs and stuff like that. And he was like, man, yeah, we can put out lots of offers and get lots of eyes on it and stuff like that. So, you know, that'll be cool.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like fun. I can't wait to hear what comes out of that.
Yeah, I'm excited about it as well. So, yeah, man, it's Thursday. We both got stuff to do. My first new session of role play groups is starting in about 45 minutes. So we'll be going for 90, and I'm going to try these Facebook groups or group rooms for it.
Yeah,
you know, so we'll see how that goes. I'll report back tomorrow and let everyone know if that's good or not. What I really want to do is get people into an email list and get them into Zoom, just because, you know, a little bit more control. But I might have to do some free ones on Facebook first to give some value, and then be able to shift it over. We'll see.
Yep. That's the way to do it.
I got a call with my closer today, and then blocking and tackling. I need to get my Sherpa done. I need to do my 5 chats, and the closer outline is almost done. I've got buy-in from my CPA and from my LLC attorney guy to come in and do like these like guest spots talking about like the tax and the business formation side of being a closer, so that way you're taken care of. And I'm getting pretty fired up because I think we're going to be hitting a lot of areas that like other closer areas don't, right? Because like my thing is like I'm trying to bring some of the nobility back to this industry, right, and make it really like something that people look forward to as opposed to like how it's looked at now. And so when you're a closer and you're working for somebody else, right, and you're making the money you want to make, like don't feel bad about it. Like go out and own it and treat it like you would if it was yours, you know, all that stuff. So
what was Jeff Daniels' line in the newsroom? He's trying to bring not dignity, something about the conversation. You watched the newsroom, didn't you?
Oh,
Remember, like,
yeah.
the whole thing for the entire story arc, he just wanted to bring basically good conversation back to the newsroom, like
Yeah.
make it actual. So yeah, that's what that reminds me of. Ask the Google quick.
I am. I'm Googling right now.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Guess that's gonna bug me.
I know it's going to bother me as well.
All right, well, tune in tomorrow and we'll tell you what Jeff
Yeah.
Daniels said on
I
the
can't
newsroom.
find it. I can't find it real quickly. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing, right? Is that, you know, this, hold on, where's my screen? Okay, too many screens. Like, this is, if you have this skill set of selling and you can do it well and you can do it consistently, you are taking out probably the 90% of why people don't start something, right? Like just go figure this thing out. And, you know, there's bunches of different ways of doing it. I'm not saying it has to be mine, but go figure this thing out and then you can do anything you want afterwards. Like, you know, so.
Right. You get customers.
And it's a noble profession, right? Like it is difficult. There's struggle. You're going to come out of it better. You're going to come out of it improved, and you're going to know how to communicate in a way that other people don't. And your view of money and conflict and challenge shifts a lot when you're really working on this stuff, and it's work worth doing. So, agreed. Sorry, I'm trying to ramp myself up.
All right, we'll do some push-ups and get to work.
Yeah, I'm going to do some 45 minutes of blocking and tackling, make sure I'm like in the right gear, and then do these role play groups.
Awesome, man. Well, enjoy the work.
And it might be just me, so I might just be in there talking to myself. We'll see what happens.
That'll be even more entertaining. Record that.
All right, Bill.